All right, let's just jump right in. If you've been paying any attention at all lately, you've probably felt it, right? This kind of weird mix of excitement and, well, anxiety about artificial intelligence. One minute it feels like we're about to solve all the world's problems, and the next, it's just unsettling. It feels powerful, unpredictable, and it is definitely here to stay. So the big question is, how are we supposed to actually work with this thing? That's what Wharton professor Ethan Mollick's book, Co-Intelligence, is all about, and that's what we're going to unpack right now.
To really get where Mollick is coming from, you have to hear about his aha moment. See, as a professor, he and his team had spent months, literally months, building these complex simulations to teach business skills. Painstaking work. Then, one day in 2022, he decides to play around with his new tool, ChatGPT. He gives it a quick prompt, and in seconds, the AI spits out a version of his simulation that was 80% of the way there. That was it. That was the moment. He realized he wasn't looking at some clever software or a slightly better Google. No, he was looking at something totally new, a different kind of intelligence. And, that changes everything.
So, if we're going to collaborate with this new intelligence, we have to get our heads around what it actually is. And for most of us, our gut instinct is probably wrong. We tend to think of it like a really smart computer. But Mollick says it's way, way weirder than that. He calls it an alien intelligence wearing a human mask, which is just a perfect description. It looks and sounds human, but underneath, the way it operates is completely foreign to us. So what is behind that mask? This right here, a large language model, or LLM. Just imagine an AI that has basically read the entire internet, books, articles, websites, you name it. But here's the part that you have to understand. It doesn't get any of it. It doesn't think. When you ask it a question, it is simply a hyper-advanced prediction machine. It's just doing math to figure out the most statistically likely next word to type. So when it says, "I'm sorry," it's not feeling anything. It's just calculated that in this context, "I'm sorry" is the most probable sequence of words. It's a mathematical process that just happens to perfectly mimic human conversation. And that's why it feels so strange.
Okay, so that leads to a really practical problem, doesn't it? If it's just a glorified prediction machine, what can we actually use it for? Because anyone who's used these tools knows their skills are all over the place. You can ask it to do something super simple, and it just completely fails. Then you give it a task that seems impossibly hard, and it totally nails it. How are we supposed to make sense of that?
Well, Mollick has this fantastic metaphor for it. He calls it the jagged frontier. So instead of thinking about AI's abilities as a smooth, upward climbing line, picture a mountain range with crazy, unpredictable peaks and valleys. It can be surprisingly bad at stuff we find easy, like counting the letters in a word. Why? Because that's not really a common pattern in language. But then it can be shockingly good at stuff we find hard, like writing a poem or coding a program, because those things are all about recognizing and recreating complex patterns it has seen over and over again. And here's the thing. That frontier is always moving, and you have no idea where the peaks and valleys are until you start exploring them yourself.
So, we have this strange, powerful, and totally unpredictable new thing in our lives. What's the move? Mollick is pretty clear on this. The answer isn't to run away from it or just stick our heads in the sand and hope it goes away. The solution is to develop what he calls co-intelligence. This isn't about humans versus machines. It's about a new partnership. It's about figuring out how our very human intelligence can sync up with this new alien intelligence to create something bigger than the sum of its parts.
Now, that all sounds great, but how do we actually do it? This is where Mollick's work gets super practical. He gives us a real framework, a set of rules of engagement to help us build a productive and smart relationship with AI. And here they are, the 4 foundational rules for co-intelligence. Think of this as your new operating manual. Number 1, always invite AI to the table. Number 2, be the human in the loop. 3, treat AI like a person. And 4, my personal favorite, the one that really makes you think, assume this is the worst AI you will ever use. Every single one of these is a huge mindset shift, so let's break them down.
Rule 1 is all about one thing: practice. The only way you're going to figure out that jagged frontier for yourself is to get your hands dirty. Mollick says you should use AI for everything, especially at the beginning. Try it on stuff you're sure it'll be bad at. Try it on your most important work. Use it to write emails, plan dinner, brainstorm ideas, whatever. It's through that constant trial and error that you go from being anxious about it to being fluent with it. You start to build an intuition for what it's good at and what it's not, for your specific needs.
And that leads us to rule number 2, which is absolutely crucial. You have to be the human in the loop. This is not about outsourcing your brain. Co-intelligence is a partnership, remember? The AI brings the raw power, the speed, the scale, the ability to crunch insane amounts of data. But you bring the things that can't be replaced: your personal context, your sense of right and wrong, and your final judgment. You're the editor-in-chief. You're the manager. You always have the final say, especially when the stakes are high.
You know, all this points to a simple but profound truth when working with AI. What you get out is a direct result of what you put in. It can't read your mind. So if you give it a lazy, vague, one-sentence prompt, you are going to get a lazy, generic, one-sentence answer. To get better results, you have to give it better instructions. Which brings us to the weirdest-sounding rule of them all.
So how do you get better at giving instructions? Well, this is rule 3. Treat the AI like a person. Now, I know that sounds a little nuts, but it's a really practical trick. Malik suggests we should stop thinking of AI as just a tool like a hammer and start thinking of it as a new kind of coworker, a very capable but very literal intern that can play all sorts of different roles for you.
So when we say treat it like a person, we mean give it a persona, a role to play. Don't just ask a question, frame it. For example, act as a personal tutor and explain quantum physics to me like I'm a 10-year-old. Or, you are a skeptical venture capitalist. I'm going to pitch you an idea. I want you to find all the weaknesses. It can be your creative partner, your debate coach, your tireless assistant. Giving it a job to do helps focus its predictive brain, and you get way more specific and useful stuff back. As you do this more and more, you'll probably find yourself falling into one of 2 styles of working with it. The first is the centaur model. Think of the mythical creature. You're the human half, in charge, making the decisions. The AI is the powerful horse part, giving you speed and strength. The other style is the cyborg model. In this case, the AI is deeply woven into everything you do. It's like a seamless extension of your own mind. Now, there's no right or wrong answer here. Most of us will probably switch between the two, being a centaur for some things and a cyborg for others.
And that brings us to the last rule, the big one. Just let this sink in for a second. All the incredible, frustrating, and world-changing stuff that AI can do right now, this is the worst, the dumbest, and the least capable version of this technology you will ever encounter for the rest of your life.
Now, why is that? It's because the speed of improvement here is just mind-blowing. For decades, the tech world ran on Moore's Law, right? Computing power doubles every 2 years or so. Well, with these AI models, performance is improving at a rate several times faster than that. It is an exponential curve on top of an exponential curve. So the skills you are building right now, learning to work with this worst-ever version, are your ticket to keeping up with the technology that is just getting started. Sitting on the sidelines really isn't an option.
So, where does that leave us? At the end of the day, this technology is really just a mirror. It reflects our instructions, our creativity, our flaws, and our goals. The future isn't something that's just going to happen to us. Malik's idea of co-intelligence is all about human choice, human agency. So the real question isn't about what amazing or scary things AI is going to do. The real question is, what are you going to do with it?